Alrighty, welcome to week 3 in CIT 93. Like it rhymes or something. So, this is the first day back in the second week of the semester, and I've seen some of the code that you've submitted, and it really is great to see students who are working ahead. There's a number of you doing that. You know how much I encourage that. Some of you have already commented on the feedback from the students from prior semesters, so I am encouraged with all the content that I'm seeing so far. Coding is definitely one of those you just need to do it more, and that was a common thing I saw students pick up on with the posts I've seen already. I haven't seen all of them for that feedback from other students. It's like you do as much of it as you can daily because it just keeps your muscle memory going. All right, and I'll dive into what's required for the reply here in a minute, but we're going to cover primitives and strings. And these concept of primitives, how we store the fundamental data, different types of data in JavaScript, so important. Conditionals and comparison operators, so important. And then in our code, so remember, if you're new to my layout, these are assignments, right? The code alongs. And do know that it's important to give me the folder commit history. This is something that I have been trying to make clear, but I understand it's something you get used to. But just know that your commit history is where I start your review. And so by providing it, it just makes me have one less step in my process. Now, and when you get to the last item, well, before the review, which I'll talk about in a minute, but here, one thing I did notice in my review today, because I am recycling some content, is you're actually going to write functions because in the code along this week, we write some of the already we'll start writing functions to handle what data we have for the carbon footprint. So what you want to do is bring that code with you into your public repo, okay? So just know that when you get here, and I've given a heads up, but I thought, you know what, I just wanted to discuss it here as well. But there's a couple of videos just going over the content that you need to do for that one. Okay, so what I will publish at the end of this video is I will publish all the content up to the review. And what I'm going to do in the review is what I did in week 2, which is take the content and give you this interface, this Canvas interface with using AI underneath to see how well you're translating and just give you more experience. And so that's really, you've now at this point, once you get here, have seen that now for the first time in this course. Now you may be taking one of my other courses like CIT82 right now. If you're taking that course, you've already seen this interface, or maybe you've seen it in another semester. It is evolving, right? So this is the points you're going to get 40 points for actually giving me that feedback of that interface. And I know when I'm asking for your feedback for week 2 review, you might think that all the content, which by the way is fine, but make sure you include in there the actual last item that we did in week 2, which was that review, right? Because this is, and it's really important that, you will see my feedback if something not so desirous happened on your interaction there. I think I had one student already have a little bit of a challenge in submitting it, right? So just be clear that on these, right, when you're in here, that you have to go down to start chat assignment, right? Don't use and it's not here because I'm looking as instructor, but don't do the attempt, which you're used to, right? So this does, in that sense, go against that normal process in Canvas, something we're seriously thinking about. And this is part of, I love this, that I get to work on this because it reconnects me with why I enjoy this field, which is actually creating stuff and bringing stuff into the world based on your concepts. Right now, I'm leaning upon OpenAI, and I really want to use other models because there are other good ones out there to use as well. Gemini's great, ones that you can load locally, but of course, I couldn't use those in the way we use this. But coming back here. So I'm just trying to describe to you why it's important. And also I say here heading 4, and I realize I didn't really talk about this so far in this class, so this is why I'm creating this video ultimately. But I want you in your reply. So when you come down here and you hit reply, right? So that context I gave you, if you come in here and you select a heading 4, that makes your content then, when you hit enter, it turns back to paragraph, which, by the way, if you're taking HTML or if you haven't, it's good to know. Like, here's actually what gets created. When you're in Canvas, you're looking at the WYSIWYG. And when you drop into the HTML, you're actually seeing what Canvas did to your content to make it HTML in their version compliant. We could talk about that, okay? So that's the text I want, and then your feedback. I said detail here. I mean, actually, honestly, what I do is I draft my instructions now, and I send them to ChatGPT to make it more clear. And I think that's good. Like, your detailed feedback is important. And then what you're going to do, okay, so that's your task 1 worth 40%, 40 points. 40 points from doing this from a previous video. And I really think pre-learning is a good thing, because it's like, even if when you walk through this, and this is part of what I want to hear in your reply, even if this is not something like all of the things I covered here were new, that's okay. You're just getting exposed to them, because oftentimes we need multiple times to cover a concept to really help us, you know, feel more comfortable with that concept. Because the first time we hear it, it's kind of like there's just so much, and our brains tend to go, oh my God, new concept. And sometimes we just, okay, I should speak for myself. Sometimes when I'm doing and being exposed to new concepts, I don't grasp the entire context of the concept because I have all this mental stuff going on. And pre-learning is hope that you actually help that by going through and hearing it in different ways. Okay, so what you'll do is you'll actually code along with this video, and then you'll give me the same URL you gave me for your week 1 Who's in the House, right? But also in your reply, right? So you'll give me your heading for my review. Now, by the way, you could give me another heading here for your URL, or you could give me a heading for, and this is part of what you get points for on this 40 points, is not only the correct URL, make sure that renders, we're using the GitHub pages we set up already, but also how much of this content were you already familiar with, or how well you understood it, right? And there's no wrong answer. It's okay to say 100, really, right? So what I will be doing is looking at your reply and looking at your code in this case, okay? And then you do at least 1 reply to classmates. And again, this is from a previous semester, so I don't go over these requirements. And if I say something about the discussion, just know that now I have covered it with you here. Okay? All right, so that's where we're at for this week, for week 3. And now what I'm going to do is, now that once I get the video published, I will go ahead and publish everything up to the review, because that's going to take me another day or so to get in the system, because I have a gen process that I go through. But most people, you know, I already see, and that's actually kind of where I was thinking here. I see only at this point 1 or maybe 2 students having been all the way through the review for this week, which we are just starting into, you know. But my goal is to get a cycle that is definitely a week ahead. All right, have a good one. Remember, reach out for help. Really important to talk about that this week. All right, see you later.